Today we're here to discuss our big debate of the day, which is wellbeing in schools. Wellbeing is a huge topic and it's become a real buzzword. It's something that all the schools we visit through Which School Advisor are talking about, and we have three panellists here today to tell us what wellbeing is all about and what it means for them in their schools. So if I can introduce our guests today. Hello.
Hi.
Sitting next to me I have Laura Dallman, who is head teacher of Victory Heights Primary School. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you.
Hi. And then next to Laura we have Katrina Mankani, who is head of positive education at Region and Sunmark Schools.
Hello.
Okay, and completing the panel today, Leanne Frid, who is vice principal of Safa Community School. Welcome, Leanne.
Thank you.
Okay. So to kick things off, I wanted to find out really first of all what wellbeing means in your school. So Katrina, would you like to start? Tell us what wellbeing means to Regent and Sunmark schools.
Well, well-being lies in the center of education in our school. So we believe that well-being lies between the teacher and a child directly. So it's in every classroom, it's in every practice, and it's everywhere.
Okay. Laura, your school, I know Victory Heights, it's known to be a school with great hearts. So tell us, what does wellbeing look like at Victory Heights?
I think it's a lot to do with happiness. I think the children and the staff and the parents need to feel happy, which will help them to become confident, and then be able to be the best that they can be. I think helping that happiness grow through wellbeing and different techniques, is vital to help the children be the best that they can.
Fantastic. So over at Safa Community School, which we were just saying off camera, is a school that's really known for that community feel. So wellbeing, as I'm sure, is a huge part of that.
Yes, it's been something that's evolved over time as the school's grown, and I think we always talk about the saying of culture in a culture, and I think wellbeing sits at the centre of that. And it is the holistic approach to education that we really utilise, and it's never something that is perfect, it's always something that needs to be focused and looked upon, and that's why we've made so many changes over the last few years as the school evolves.
Okay, so you touched on some changes then. That was actually nicely into my next question, thanks, Leanne, which is what those wellbeing initiatives are and what they look like in your school. So Leanne, do you want to start there?
Yeah, so we started with curriculum modifications first and foremost. So we decided to have overarching concepts in our curriculum, pulling together all the best of the areas, and one of them, particularly in term one, is wellbeing, which is then supported by our learning skill, which is identity, because as being a school in Dubai, very transient place, every year we have a number of new children, and we never want the children to feel like a new child, because I think wellbeing is that state of, as you've mentioned, Laura, happiness, but also that feeling like you're a part of that community in that school. Another aspect we've put in is additional staffing, so obviously building a partnership with Kids First to have access to school counsellors. It's then also looking at additional pastoral care leaders, making sure that you are covering what's happening in the school on a day-to-day basis. And then this year a big one was timetable modification. So we extended our school day on a Thursday, but that's enabled us to have mindfulness time every morning throughout across the year 1 to 4, and then a form time for 5 to 6 to touch on a number of the elements linked to wellbeing that we need to be touching base with children every single day, rather than it being something that we leave to an assembly or something like that.
Okay, that's great. So Katrina, you are Director of Positive Education, so you must know all about those wellbeing initiatives. Can you tell us what you're doing over at Regent and Sunmark schools?
So in terms of initiatives, when we looked at positive education, we thought we will look at it systemically, and that's why we partnered with the Institute of Positive Education in Geelong Grammar School, where the positive education was born. And they have a very clear idea about the implementation of positive education. They say for POSED to be a culture in the school, teachers and staff and parents, they need to learn about it, they need to live it, they need to teach it, and it needs to be embedded. So learn it, live it, teach it, embedded approach. And that's why in 2016 we have invited Institute of Positive Education to train more than 200 teachers in both of our schools. And one of the things that I'm very proud of is that every single teacher in our school is trained in positive education, either by the institute themselves or by me already. So before every teacher joins the classroom, they have to spend 3 days with me. for positive education training. So that is the introduction in positive psychology to the teachers. And then it is their kind of initiative to bring it into the classroom. So as I said, well-being underpins not just how we teach it, but how we live and approach our students. So we have we don't have a behavior system, we have a restorative justice system. So we react on the unwanted behavior differently. We ensure that there is a reparation of damage, and then there is reintegration. And we all do mistakes, but we're not judged by them. We move on. So apart from this, of course, we have a curriculum, positive education curriculum. Our curriculum was born again in Geelong Grammar School, and we've adapted it with the help of our educators. And then we have, of course, mindfulness. Very, very popular are the Wellbeing Wednesdays and Mindful Mondays for our parents. Okay. So yeah.
Fantastic. So parents their involvement was touched on a couple of times. The parents getting involved with your wellbeing initiatives at Victory Heights?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think having parents involved from day one and understanding that, that we could be approached, that they can come and talk to us if they've got any concerns or worries is key. We have a lot of parent workshops so that parents are very much part of our community and feel involved, and very much an open door policy, that you get to see that face-to-face contact with the teacher every day, either in the morning or at the end of the day, and so it's not always just through emails or through a faceless person, maybe somebody on a desk, but it's somebody who knows your child and works with your child every day. And I think helping the parents to feel confident with that and understanding that makes a huge difference.
One thing that's sort of quite topical at the moment is wellbeing is not just simply about the emotional side of things, it's about physical health, and we're right in the middle of the Dubai 30 by 30 challenge. What's going on quickly in your schools?
Oh my goodness, we've got wake up and shake ups happening most mornings. Lots of people in active wear at the moment, and we've got tug of war planned, and we've got a Blink Day walkathon coming up as well, and we've got all sorts.
Okay, over at Safa, what's happening?
Yes, so this is actually the launch of our Health and Fitness Week. So part of that is looking at physical activity, but in a fun way. So we've got slip and slide going on at the moment.
Nice.
Yeah, we've got some rugby skills going on, similar to Laura Wake Up's Shake Up. There's a number of activities stationed around the school. We had some year ones doing the sit-up challenge at break time today. But part of that was actually creating more spaces for children to be active in the break. So in half term, we created a new football area for our year 1 and 2 children. But this year we've tried to take more of a holistic approach, whereas it's not just when they go to PE they do these activities. We've actually linked it to the global goal, which is health and wellbeing, and every year group has a different focus that they'll look on as well. So for example, in year 1 they're looking at worries and how we can identify worries and how we can solve those problems. Year 2 they're looking at relationships and making those links, and they've all got like a set text that's driving that. And then for example, our year 5s are looking at something more topical like social media and the pros and cons linked to that as well. And then our year 6s, for example, look at ethics and sport. So we're trying to look at a more holistic approach to health and wellbeing, but encompassing those fun activities that we have, but also making sure that that learning is embedded throughout and communicating that with parents as well.
I'm sure there's lots of sporty things happening at Regent this summer.
Yeah, we're also quite lucky with all the sporting facilities, but there's one activity that the children really enjoyed. So in secondary, we actually competing which year group will climb Mount Everest.
Oh wow!
First, so we have grand staircase in St. Mark's School.
Okay.
And so they run up and down the staircase, and then we count. And let's see who's going to win this week.
Okay.
And last year even the teachers were participating, but we were not as fast as the students.
I meant to mention we've also got a skipathon coming up this month as part of 30 by 30, and thinking every child from FS1 all the way to year 6 is getting a skipping rope out, and they're learning to skip, because skipping is quite a difficult thing to manage, especially if you're 4. And those skills, with those gross motor skills, like you said, just fit in so well into the curriculum and the learning and helping them, but also in a fun and engaged way.
So it's a government initiative, and it's a great thing for Dubai. I know that wellbeing is a huge thing for the KHDA, but also they're looking at, you guys have got a lot of demands, you've got busy curriculum, so how are you fitting wellbeing into the day? How are you taking, like Leanne talked about there, you've specifically extended your school day. Have you felt the need for that, or how is it working in your schools?
It has to be absolutely integrated into everything you're doing. It can't only be a mindfulness session, one-off, or just a yoga session here and there. It needs to be part of everyday teaching and learning. We have Ellie animals at our school, which sort of building those really positive attributes to help children to become, confident individuals, whether they're becoming resilient or patient, and making sure they're not giving up. And those sorts of things we refer to all the time in their lessons, helping the children, to be naturally, using these skills.
And so at Regent and Sunmarket, you're using your positive curriculum alongside the regular curriculum. So your teachers obviously have got that to work around as well, but I'm sure they find it fascinating and sort of an extra layer that they can be incorporating into their lessons.
Yeah, so we do have these standalone lessons for year 1 onwards to year 13. And at the same time, I see well-being as the manifestation of the Maslow pyramid of needs. So well-being is on every level. So we need to ensure that we're taking care of physical needs, ensuring that children are eating, sleeping correctly, and ensuring that the parents also on board with it, and up to self-actualization, ensuring that they have space to create, they have space to understand who they are and to build their self-esteem. So it's on every level.
How do you find, obviously there's certain issues that tend to come up when we talk about well-being, whether it be perhaps things like anxiety or nerves around school. Leanne, you touched there upon being a new child in school, which is a particular issue in an expat society. How then do you find that these issues vary from sort of age group to age group? Safa community is an all-through school, so how does that?
So for our new children, we always modify it because we have a lot of new starters that join midway through the school year. So rather than them turning up on the first day with everyone else, we always have an induction day, which is before any of the other children. So if it's in half term and we've got new starters coming in term 2, they come in the week before, they meet all the members of the pastoral team, they get to see the school and what it's like, and they're also allocated like a buddy, and that is a person that looks after them to make sure they've got someone to play with at break times. That could be right from FS all the way even into the secondary school, but knowing where to go if they need support is a big thing for us. And as Laura mentioned, it's making yourselves accessible for not just the parents but also the children as well, and them knowing where those people are to go to if they need support. And a big thing for us, obviously the secondary children, it does become a challenge for them because it's a little bit more daunting going in, because it's not just having that buddy. We're very fortunate at Safa, Matthew Ashton, who sits on the Wellbeing Committee, obviously the census, does a fantastic job in terms of making sure those children have that staggered start when coming into the school, that it's not just their first day when they go into a random lesson, and that's why bringing in form times into the beginning of the school day, but also having those check-in points. So part of our pastoral team's role is that monitoring and evaluating. A big thing for us is student voice. So when a child joins, it's not just that first induction session, it's the follow-up, and it's both with parents and the children, and it's checking in every now and then. We're all made aware of any new children that come in, so at break times, whether it's foundation, primary or secondary, we can keep an eye out for them as well, because that is the biggest thing. I think when you're in that safe haven in the classroom, and if you've been to Safa, they've got quite a big area to play in, and it's making sure that there are people, there's eyes and ears looking out for those children at all times. But I think I have to give credit where credit's due. Our children are amazing, so they know what it's like to be the new children. I think that's the beauty of Dubai, isn't it? They're used to their friends and their classmates moving abroad and having a lot of change, so they're very, very adaptable at accepting new children in, and that's what we've found is really, really great. And our parents even more so. They're very, very good at welcoming people in with open arms. We've got a very, very dedicated PTA that they always do a new parent coffee morning every time when we've got a big number of new families, just so they've got names and faces. And I think establishing a parent liaison for each year group has really helped as well, because they then have that familiar face, because sometimes it's not actually us they want to speak to, sometimes it's parent to parent, isn't it, just to understand what's happening. So every year we evolve, and we never get it right. It's about always making sure that you're constantly improving whatever process you're providing in the school. I think is the most important.
Laura, slightly different for you. You're a standalone primary school, so you haven't got those big kids to deal with, but you do obviously have very young children joining as well. How are you sort of starting off that focus on wellbeing with the very youngest students?
Those key transition moments that Leanne was just talking about, whether it's moving through to secondary school at the end of year 6, or when you first come in FS1, we give every child at the end of their first week at the school a Victory Heights teddy bear, and it's just a small bear, but it's more symbolising that they have this connection, and they can talk about their worries, despair, and help. Together they're on this journey together in school, and those we have a staggered start for our FS1 as well, so that they're not all coming in at the same time. And then the parents are obviously continuously invited in, especially in those first couple of weeks, getting to learn the new routines and everything else that's changing for them and their lifestyle. It's a huge change, and it's supporting them along the way.
Katrina, St Mark is a secondary school. You have the very oldest children there as well. Tell me about how looking after the well-being of those older children works.
The older, like post 16?
Yes.
Yeah, they're in the mind of their own, right, in this age, and they are the best judges of what actually will help in their well-being. But and then also, so as teachers, we first of all need to understand what they are going through. So apart from, of course, the pressures of exams, they're also going through some changes in their physiology. For example, they go to sleep later, they wake up early, they are asleep in the first couple of hours, right? So we need to ensure that first we educate them in the self-management of their bodies. So that's the first thing. And we spend quite a lot of time actually teaching them those skills. And for example, for Mental Health Week, we ran a big survey, who sleeps how many hours, and then showed them what is the correct way, and how many hours they need to sleep. And we also talk about diet and other things. And even sometimes for us, it sounds quite ordinary, but it actually is important for them, because that is the last thing they think about, right? So this is the thing. We of course have a well-being coach for them.
Okay.
And this well-being coach is not just a counselor, so he's not somebody who students go when they have a problem, but he is, for example, a guy who will work with the student in the gym and have a conversation, right? We of course have career counselor as well, who is trained in a certain well-being techniques, and also helps them to find their purpose, because in that age many of them still don't know what they want to do.
Yeah, and that's the root of a lot of anxiety.
Exactly,
of course, for that age group.
right? And actually just having with them those conversations, we use the purpose questionnaire.
Right.
I forgot the name of the author, but we use a purpose questionnaire, and our career counselor goes through this and then helps students to do their purpose project, which they will then later write in their essay for universities.
Okay, brilliant. How do your children support each other? Leanne, you talked about those playground buddies, but in a couple of schools we visited now, I know that the schools are really working hard to help children to look out for certain areas and sort of issues around well-being. Is that something that you're doing in your schools?
Yeah, I mean, we have obviously buddy benches, helping children not to feel lonely at lunchtimes. We have tables that were actually specifically painted yellow. That was decided by our pupil voice group and the Wellbeing pupil voice group, because they felt yellow was representing a lion, and they actually wanted a lion drawn onto the front of the table to say that you actually have to be brave to go and sit there at lunchtime or playtime, and then somebody will know where to come and find you, and then you'll have a network. So we've got that with helping each other. But children are amazing at being able to support each other and recognise that, and I think equipping them with those skills all the way along helps them.
That's great. What then if a parent feels that their child is having a tough time for whatever reason, and perhaps the school is not help? What advice would you have for parents who have a child who's perhaps struggling in school? How do they reach out to the schools, and what support should they be expecting?
I think first and foremost, don't stay at home worrying about it. You must come and talk to someone at the school. Ideally, the class teacher, I think, would probably be the first port of call, but then maybe talk to the head teacher or anyone else that you can get. But definitely talk to somebody in the school to help, and then everyone can be on board and support together.
Leanne, would you like to add anything there?
Yeah, very similar. First and foremost, always the classroom teacher, and then obviously we have another layer which are our pastoral leaders, and We actually expanded leadership capacity in the foundation stage, but we have 2 of them because obviously, as you mentioned, it's a really big transition for brand new FS1s, but also getting the FS2s ready for year 1. Our pastoral leaders, we have a group of children that we regularly monitor, and that could be maybe they are having a difficult time at school, but it could be for school reasons, or it could also be from outside factors. Being a school in Dubai, quite often we have a number of children, solo parents at home because mum or dad may travel for work. We also then have a lot of families that maybe they are solely brought up by someone else in the household and not necessarily mum or dad. And so we have a lot of those children, which we would refer to as our fragile learners, where we identify specific strategies we need to put in place. And they also are a lot of the children that would access our school counsellor as well. And I think the biggest thing with Laura is we don't know about it unless you come to us. So as a parent, we appreciate when you come to us because 90% of the time we can find a solution for the problem, or we can make something better. And I think the biggest thing is you want every child to want to come to school and you want them to be happy. And I think the third one is that they're comfortable in that environment as well. And sometimes there's easy fixes in how we can make a situation better, but if we don't know about it, we can't do that. So I think that's the biggest thing is communication.
And as Regent and Sir Mark.
Yeah, so the well-being, of course, lays also in the house, right? So we always tell, we encourage parents to come to us and speak to us, and it can be either a teacher again or any of the senior leaders. We also have psychologists on board. In Region, we have an educational psychologist who actually also proactively works with students who are recommended by either parents or the class teacher. And we also have certain apps that we use for secondary students where the parents already are not that involved, but the student can write anonymously about their problem.
Okay.
And there's a 24/7 support.
Wow.
So we have 3 psychologists who are responding the messages. The teachers do not see those messages. And the student can talk completely anonymously to those psychologists, and the identity will be revealed only if there is any danger for somebody's life, right? But that provides student with the very quick help.
Yeah, and to have that privacy, I think once
Yes.
you've reached that age, it's often quite nerve-wracking, I think, to approach people with your problems. What then does the future hold in terms of wellbeing in schools? We hear about it everywhere, it's in the newspapers, the KHDA have a real focus on wellbeing in schools. How do you see that evolving in the future? I'd like to jump in. You've all got ideas. Please, Laura.
I just think it will keep growing. It's wonderful that it's finally being recognised as such an important thing. It's moving away from just focusing solely on the academic. It is the whole child. And then that feeds into the academic. And I think this awareness is fantastic. Where we go from this, I think children will be feeling more confident, able to talk about their problems, able to deal with concerns and worries, and empowered to be able to manage, so that we're teaching them the resilience that sometimes things are tricky, sometimes things are challenging, but they'll have the skills to be able to deal with it and move forward.
Okay, fantastic.
I think we're very lucky living and working in Dubai, where the government and all of us take it so seriously. And I think that there is a growing body of research which talks about character development and well-being in the school, and how it empowers students and how it improves their all outcomes, including the academic outcomes, right? And I think that Dubai actually has a potential to be that case study for the world of the whole city where well-being have come into the heart of education. So I'm excited to just be a part of it.
And I think, as we had spoken about slightly earlier, it's the staff wellbeing, which is something that you'll continue to work on and evolve. As we mentioned, happy staff makes a happy school, essentially. And I think still an area of focus that will be linked to wellbeing is of leaders. I think the biggest thing is we are sat here protecting staff and protecting children and looking at the best thing we can do from them. But it's then how we protect those leaders to ensure that they remain in post and that they want to continue that journey, I think is still an area of development. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I know that's something that KHDA were looking at last year with taking some leaders on a break up into the Hatton Mountains.
Yes,
Because obviously, you talk about happy children and happy schools, but without happy staff,
And
Definitely.
workload is
Yeah.
huge. You know, teaching in schools isn't a job that you ever just walk away at the end of the day,
Sure.
ever. And so supporting everybody in that community to make sure that they are looking after themselves, and equally, you know, we have to make sure that we're well rested and fed and watered and looked after, so that then we can do the best for our children.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you, ladies. It's been a really interesting discussion. Hope everybody's enjoyed tuning into the big debate with Which School Advisor today.